Brand new set of TFT has just been released, bringing many new and returning players to the game. So today we're going to go through everything that you need to know to get up to speed and winning games of TFT. Let's get into it. First off, we're going to go through the fundamentals. These are the core areas of TFT you need to know to play through a game without wondering what the hell is going on. TFT is a great game, but it doesn't do a good job for easing new players in. There is no tutorial unless you play the mobile version, and even then it's very basic and doesn't cover all of the key areas that you need to know. In TFT, you play as a tactician, and your job is to assemble a team of units that then automatically battle another tactician's team of units. You then deal or take damage depending on whether your team won or lost that battle. This goes on over multiple rounds until you're the last tactician standing and win, or you reach 0 health and are eliminated from the game. As you're playing against 7 other players, ending the game anything 4th place and above is seen as a win, and anything below 4th is a loss. As soon as you enter a game, there will be 3 portals on the ground, with each having a different effect that will impact the game. Each player can vote on a portal by moving into it or selecting the vote button next to the portal name, and after 20 seconds it will randomly select a player, and whichever portal they voted for will be chosen. As a new player, I wouldn't worry too much about these portals, but make sure to take a note of what the chosen portal does. After the portal has been selected, you'll automatically be given a random unit and enter what is called a creep round. These types of rounds are scattered throughout a game of TFT, and it's just one of many ways the game provides you with loot throughout the game. Your units will kill the minions, which will drop loot orbs or gold that you can run over and pick up. Next we enter the main phase where you perform all of the actions before the battle starts. Your goal here is to prepare your board for the next round by buying and selling units from the shop at the bottom, placing and positioning units onto your board from your bench, and leveling up. Knowing which units to buy and play comes with experience, but as a new player the easiest way is to look at their traits and try to buy units that match, so that you can get a trait bonus. Trait bonuses are shown on the left hand side of the screen at all times, light up if you have activated the bonus at certain breakpoints. For example, some trait bonuses become active if you have 2 different units with the trait on the board, and others might start at 3. You can right click on each trait bonus to see what it does at each breakpoint, as well as see other units that have the same trait. You know what to look out for if you want to activate more breakpoints in the trait. Next, let's talk a bit about the units themselves. In addition to having different traits associated with them, they also have varying costs, with higher cost units usually being stronger than lower costed units. As you level up your tactician, which we'll get into a little later, you increase your chances of seeing higher costed units in your shop. The percentages to see these different costed units are displayed here and will change as you level up. For example, at the start of the game you can only see 1 cost units, but once you level up to 3, you get a 25% chance to see 2 cost units. Units can also be upgraded into stronger versions of themselves by buying 3 copies, which will transform them into a 2-star version. You can then go even further by finding 9 copies, which will upgrade it into a 3-starred version, which is the strongest version that you can get. In the early stages of the game, having 2-starred versions of a unit is nearly always better than playing 1-star units with matching traits. Of course, if you can get 2-starred units that also have matching traits, then even better. Your main prioritization should be upgraded units over ones that synergize. Similar to seeing the trait information by clicking on them, you can also right-click on a unit to see other helpful information such as what their ability is, whether they are best positioned at the front or back of the board, their attack range, and also their recommended items. This is very useful for new players as you can see exactly what kind of unit it is, where to place them, and what items to put on them. In the majority of games, you want to build a team with a good mixture of frontline and backline units, with some tanks and some damage carries. Speaking of items, throughout the game you will acquire item components which can be combined to build items on your units. These items have different effects as well as providing base stats, and you should look at building them as soon as you can to provide a big boost in board strength. Help see what items you can build, you can right click on a component which will bring up a table showing all of the different combinations and what items you get. This is extremely helpful when using it in combination with the unit item recommendations to allow you to easily know the best items to build on each unit. Similar to my recommendation of buying a mixture of tank and damage units, I'd also recommend building a mixture of tank and damage items for your team. Now you know all about building a synergistic team composition with different types of units, let's talk about the fundamental resources to help you do that: gold and XP. Gold is your resource for leveling up, buying units, and refreshing your shop so that you can see another set of units. Each round you'll get a set amount of gold plus some additional for meeting certain criteria such as winning a round, as well as selling units. The main method of getting additional gold is through the interest system. This gives you 1 additional gold for every 10 gold that you have at the end of the round. For example, if you have 30 gold when a round ends, you'll get an additional 3 gold, and this is capped at 5 gold when you have 50. Getting gold through interest is extremely important, and one of the biggest mistakes I see new players make is spending all of their gold every turn, losing out on potentially 5 gold every single round. You should aim to make your interest thresholds of 10, 20, 30 gold, etc. whenever you can, as the gold you get from this will give you a much bigger advantage as you go through the game. You can also get additional gold by going on a win or lose streak, which you can see the details of in this little fire emblem. As a new player, I wouldn't worry too much about this system, but it's important to note as when you become more experienced, there are advanced strategies around intentionally losing to go on a lose streak, which will gain you extra gold, but it does come with a lot of risk, which is why I think it's best avoiding as a new player. Next is XP. This is used to level up your tactician, which provides you higher chances to see extra units as I mentioned earlier, as well as giving you an extra unit slot on your board. This means at level 4 you can have 4 active units fighting for you, level 5 you can have 5, and so on. There are other ways to increase this cap, which we'll go through a little later, but this is the main method of getting more units on the board. You gain 2 XP passively every round, and you can also buy 4 XP for 4 gold at any time, with each level requiring an increasing amount of XP to get to the next, until you reach the max level of 10. Consistently building a strong late game team that can win you a game of TFT requires a lot of experience, but there are core strategies for every type that you can master so that you can be as flexible as possible in game. There are 3 key types of final compositions, and we're going to go through each of them, explain the strategy, and then discuss how to find the best team comps in the current meta. So first up we have what is called a reroll comp. This is the team composition that looks to refresh your shop when you're at a specific level in order to 3-star one or multiple units. As I mentioned earlier, your level determines the chance of seeing a certain cost of unit in your shop, so it's key to only refresh your shop when you're at the level with the highest chance to see the units that you want to 3-star. Reroll comps are specifically for 1, 2 and 3 cost units to make up for the fact that they are slightly weaker than 4 and 5 cost boards, something we'll get into shortly. You generally want to be rolling your shop to 3-star 1 cost units at level 4 and 5, 2 cost units at level 6, and 3-star units at level 7, as this gives you the greatest odds of seeing those specific units. I'll be doing an in-depth guide specifically on when to level and refresh your shop for each type of comp in the near future, so if you're interested in seeing that, then be sure to subscribe so that you can be notified when it goes live. The next type of composition revolves around 4 cost units. Unlike the earlier strategy that emphasises rolling for 1, 2 and 3 cost units, here the game plan shifts towards levelling up to improve your chances of finding these higher cost units. 4 cost units are significant because they offer a noticeable increase in power and only need to be 2-star to be strong enough to win games. To effectively build a 4-cost board, the approach involves a bit more patience and strategic planning. The goal is to level up to 8 as safely as possible, which is where your chances to find 4-cost units in the shop start to peak. This doesn't mean you should level up as fast as possible without thinking. It's about managing your gold efficiently so that when you do hit the right level, you also have the resources to buy these units and make meaningful upgrades to your team. When you're level 8, you will refresh your shop in order to look for 4-cost units. You'll need to make decisions on which ones can best fit or enhance your current lineup. Sometimes you might find a unit that encourages you to shift your strategy a bit to take full advantage of its strengths. This stage of the game requires a good understanding of what units are available and how they can synergize with what you've already built. In essence, working with 4-cost boards is a balancing act of leveling at the right time, maintaining a healthy economy, and being flexible with your team composition based on the units that you find. It's a straightforward approach that demands attention to the game's pacing and making informed decisions based on the units you come across. And finally we have some of the strongest team compositions in TFT, legendary boards. This is when you have a very strong economy and health throughout the whole game and skip level 8 to go to level 9 and slot in as many 5-cost units as you can. This won't happen very often, and only the most skilled players of TFT can pull it off consistently. It takes a lot of experience to know if you're strong enough to go straight to 9, and even more experience to know exactly what 5 costs to fit into your final board. As a beginner to TFT, I wouldn't worry too much about these types of boards for now, and instead focus on either reroll and 4-cost boards, as that is what you'll be playing the majority of the time. Moving on to finding the best team compositions to play in the current meta, there are essentially 2 approaches, the easy way and the hard way. The easy way involves leveraging resources such as tier lists, guides and video content. This method simplifies the process of identifying strong compositions, allowing players to quickly adapt and potentially win more games without extensive trial and error. However, the downside of that is that it might limit a player's understanding of deeper game mechanics. Relying heavily on guides can restrict personal experimentation, and the development of adaptability skills, which are crucial for navigating through unpredictable situations or when meta shifts occur. If you're interested in checking out a comp guide, I've just released my 5 top comps to climb ranked with, and I'll leave a link in the description below for you to check it out. On the other hand, the hard way is all about diving into the game and learning through first-hand experience. Experimenting with different compositions and strategies in-game offers a richer understanding of TFT's dynamics. It encourages creativity and helps build a flexible mindset, making it easier to adapt to new patches or unexpected scenarios. The trade-off, however, that this approach might lead to more losses initially as you explore and refine your strategies. Despite the steeper learning curve, the insights gained through direct experimentation can significantly enhance your gameplay and decision-making skills over time. Both methods have their merits. Guides provide a straightforward path to competitive play, ideal for those looking to climb ranks efficiently and quickly. Experimentation, while potentially more challenging, offers a deeper mastery of the game, fostering a versatile and resilient approach to TFT. Those are the fundamental areas of TFT covered, but we're now going to go through the mechanics that keep each game feeling fresh and unique, which are Augments and the new set mechanic called Encounters. At 3 different points in the game, you will be offered a choice of Augment. There are over 140 unique Augments in the game, all providing something different such as damage bonuses, XP, items, effects, and more. When these show up, you should read each carefully and pick whichever one fits your team the best. For example, if I have a lot of ability power units like the Arcanist trait, and I get offered an augment that gives all of my units additional ability power, then I may look to select that as it synergizes well with the direction I'm going in. And next we have the new set mechanic called Encounters. Every 4 months a new set is released, such as set 11 right now, which completely changes the game, introducing an entirely new set of units and traits, as well as a new mechanic to give a fresh feeling to the game. The encounter mechanic introduced in this set calls down legendary characters at different points between 2 and 5 times per game, that provide different rewards and bonuses. There are over 80 unique encounters that can occur, with some having a small impact on the game and others completely changing the way you would normally play. This is kind of similar to Augments, but instead of each player getting something different offered, all players will experience the same encounter, although some encounters do offer choices for you to make which will impact your game differently to another player. So you should now have a good understanding of TFT in general. We're going to close off with 3 tips you should know before entering a game, starting with scouting. The basics of scouting are simple. During the planning phase, click through your opponent's boards to see what they're building and how they're positioned. This is very important as there are only a finite amount of units available in a shop. The higher the cost of the unit, the less of them there are available. This means that if you want to play a certain 4-cost unit in your final team composition, and 2 other players already have a 2-star version of it, then you're much more unlikely to see it in your shop. Scouting will allow you to identify when you're being contested early on, and allow you to act accordingly, whether that be pivoting to a different composition, or rolling your shop earlier than they do so that you hit the units you need before them. Dealing with being contested is a skill in itself, and I did do a guide on this back in set 8, but I may look to do an updated one in the future. The other main reason to scout other players is to check their positioning. You're able to see who you're potentially going against in the next round by looking out for this little cross sword icon next to the players' names. This will allow you to position your units to your advantage, which alone can win you rounds of TFT. Next we have the Team Planner. This is a relatively new feature to TFT that came in last set and has been well received by the community. It allows you to select the units you want to play in your game, and then an icon will appear next to the units in the shop. This makes it very easy to find the units you want, especially when you're refreshing your shop quickly. Once you've decided on the team composition you're committing to, make sure to add the units to your planner so that you can make your life easier when refreshing your shop. And finally we have Wound and Shred. These are 2 very important effects that you should aim to have active in every team comp that you build. The Wound effect reduces the healing of enemy units, and without it your board can easily lose rounds against teams with a lot of healing. There are a few ways to get the effect, the most common being items such as Sunfire Cape, Red Buff and Morello's, and other less common ways such as Augments or an ability of a unit on your team. Shred is a similar effect, but instead of reducing healing, it reduces the armor or magic resistances of enemies. Depending on if your main damage source is coming from attack damage or ability power, you want to have armor or magic shred, and just like Wound, it can be acquired from items, augments or units' abilities. And that's it for this guide. I hope you found it helpful, and if you did, please consider subscribing for more guides in the future, and I'll hopefully see you in the next one.